The sun hung low, the orb long since obscured by the horizon. Its orange glow bathed the black charcoal ground, leaving it in an uncertain state, something akin to dawn or dusk, eternally transposed upon the still, cracked, lifeless field. Large looming mountains could be seen miles away to the east and west of the rolling plain. Nothing sprouted upon its surface, the soil empty and parched. Large gashes and cracks swept across the barren ground, leaving pillars of stone to stand among the crevices that led to oblivion below. I stood at the edge of one of these crevices, the arid, earthy air filling my lungs. Opposite me, standing gracefully upon one of the stone pillars, a figure stood. Its shadow, stretched out from the sun, lay at my feet. I knew not what the figure's name was, nor its nature, but I knew from its unearthly presence that it wasn't human. It was wrapped securely in the shadows, but I could make out its form. It had vaguely human features, but it was thin and skeletal. A large feathery cloak hung off it, obscuring its shoulders and arms. A hood covered its head. A white skeletal mask stood out like a beacon in its shadows. In its skinny, bony fingers it held tightly onto a long, twisting wooden pole that had a wickedly curved metal blade on the end. A scythe. It stood on a single long, narrow leg that bent awkwardly, its other leg bent at an angle across it. It looked as if it was sitting on an invisible chair. Its gaze was clearly upon me. The white mask held many secrets, but the location of its eyes and where it looked wasn't one of them. I felt the pressure from that glare, a challenge and a promise. I took a step forward into the thing's shadow. I strolled upon the stones across the yawning chasm. Darkness lay around me, waiting for a careless stride to lead me into its fractured maw. The figure stood still like a statue, its curved blade resting upon its lap, pointed towards my hip. The mask followed me as I worked my way across the chasm. I was careful picking my path through the pillars, and as I was watching where my foot was going, I caught motion from the corner of my eye. It didn't make a sound as it sped across the stones towards me, and startled, I almost missed my step. Then it was next to me. It swung the scythe down in an arc. I backpedaled, narrowly avoiding the impact. I felt a blast of air whoosh over my face and I blinked. I didn't look behind me when I stepped backwards. It was more out of reaction, and my right foot barely made contact with the small stone pillar behind me. My heel slipped off it, sending my leg into the chasm. The rest of my body threatened to be pulled along with it until my upper right thigh smacked into the rock behind me. I quickly pitched over on my right side, pulling myself under the small stone pillar. A deep, throbbing pain rang out from my thigh, along with a flash of relief. The reflected light from the thing's raised scythe caught my attention, and a renewed sense of panic struck me. I rolled over and jumped onto one of the larger pillars. As the scythe whistled down, bits of rock and dust pelted me as the stone I had just been laying on evaporated. Why had I walked out here again? Why was I doing this? Its white mask had followed my lead. Its gaze had never left me. It confidently turned and walked towards me, not watching where its feet fell. I scrambled to mine and raised my fists. I had no intention of running. I had no intentions. My stance was unknown to me. The left side of my body was facing the figure. That fist raised to just under my left eye. My right fist hung by my hip, my elbow bent. I bounced slightly on the tips of my toes. It was intrinsic, like some deep buried memory embedded in my muscles. For the first time, I noticed a dark ring of shadows dancing around my wrist and forearm. It matched the shadows that fell across the landscape. I didn't feel uneasy. If anything, this felt natural. The figure lunged at me. This time it swung the scythe horizontally, towards my stomach. I leaned back on my right leg, shifting the left side of my body back, and I swung my right fist downward at the same time. The blade sailed past me as I smacked it. The blow knocked it low and it crashed into a pillar to my right. It exploded in a shower of debris. I quickly shifted my weight and kicked my left leg with all my might. It arced towards the thing's ribs, but all I felt was claws as it bounced into the cloud of dust. I watched it retreat, unsure of my next move. A flash of silver caught my attention as the creature flew through the cloud. Its scythe was raised above its head as it plunged towards me through the dirt. I looked out of the corner of my eye behind me, seeking retreat, not willing to repeat my mistakes. It was too late, though. The scythe came crashing towards me. I raised my arms instinctively, ready to lose them and my head. My arms felt as if they would snap as the blade ground to a halt against the shadows on my forearms. It quickly pulled the scythe back and cocked it horizontally again. It swung. I barely managed to drop my arm before the impact, blocking the blade. I was sent flying through the air, bouncing across the stones. My back struck one of the pillars, and I desperately tried to grab the one in front of me before I fell into the darkness. My fingertips gripped onto the stone loosely, and I squirmed trying to pull myself up. My head popped up above it. A flash of the thing's black feathered cloak drew my eyes to it, and its scythe, as it charged towards me. The blade hung low, aimed at my forehead. I dropped my head as the blade passed by. I put my feet on the pillar and pushed off it, trying to jump under the one I had originally crashed into. I managed to jump better than I thought I would have, landing easily on my feet. I spun to face the thing and barely managed to avoid a lethal overhead strike. We traded blows in narrow misses like that, for what seemed like days, the sun's angle never changing, the orange light and stretching shadows never fading. I became fluid and fluent, but against the mass figure, I never struck true. For its part, it never lagged or languished, always a hair's breadth from my throat, but it never found purchase in my tender. Yet, while I hadn't grown tired, nor tired of the fight, our arena had surely shrunken. The pillars had mostly fallen.